At exactly 05:22 on a Wednesday morning in the northern Persian Gulf, 7 Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps fast attack boats opened fire on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. Not warning shots, not flares, rocket-propelled grenades and heavy machine gun fire directed at a 100,000-ton nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in international waters. 2 rounds struck the carrier's island structure. 2 American sailors went down, and before the smoke had cleared from the Iranian boat's weapons, a response was already in the air that the men who fired those rounds would never see coming. The Theodore Roosevelt is not a target. She is not a vessel, not a ship in any conventional sense of the word. She's 4.5 acres of American sovereign territory, moving through the world's most contested waterway at the pleasure of the United States Navy. Her 2 A4W nuclear reactors will run for 20 years without refueling. Her air wing carries 72 aircraft. Her combat systems have been refined through 3 decades of real-world operational experience in precisely these waters. The IRGC commanders who planned the attack on her that morning understood none of this. They understood only that a large, slow-moving ship presented an opportunity. They were catastrophically wrong about what kind of opportunity it was. The plan had been 14 months in development. IRGC Navy Brigadier General Qasim Vafay, commanding officer of the Persian Gulf Flotilla, had designed a coordinated ambush built around a single tactical assumption. If his boats could disrupt the Roosevelt's communication network at the moment of attack, the strike group would need critical minutes to re-establish command authority and authorize a response. In those minutes, his 7 Paycop-class fast attack boats would fire, disengage, and reach Iranian territorial waters before any retaliation could be sanctioned. The RPG rounds were designed to humiliate, not sink, scratch the paint, draw blood, photograph the damage, broadcast it, demonstrate that the Persian Gulf belonged to Iran, not to an American carrier group sailing through it like it owned the place. The communications disruption was the linchpin of the entire operation. Without it, the plan collapsed. Maffei knew this. He had allocated significant resources to jamming equipment. What he had not allocated was any serious study of the Roosevelt's electronic architecture, because if he had, he would have learned that the strike group's communications run on frequency-hopping, encrypted, redundant pathways designed by engineers whose entire professional purpose is to make jamming them a waste of time. The disruption activated at 0520. It was detected by the Roosevelt's electronic warfare suite at 0521. It was routed around and neutralized at 0522, the same second the Iranian boats opened fire. Vafay's one decisive advantage lasted 60 seconds and accomplished nothing. His boats were now fully committed to an attack on a carrier strike group with full communications, full situational awareness, and full authority to respond. What happened next took 31 minutes. 4 FA-18F Super Hornets from Strike Fighter Squadron 102 had been sitting at Alert 5 status since 0400. Alert 5 means engines cold, pilots strapped in, ready to launch in 5 minutes or less. They were at Alert 5 because 18 hours earlier, Signals Intelligence had flagged elevated IRGC boat activity out of Bushehr. Nobody had predicted the attack specifically, but the Roosevelt's commanding officer had read the threat environment correctly and positioned his assets accordingly. When the first Iranian round struck the island structure, the Alert 5 Hornets were already being pushed to the catapult. 3 minutes and 40 seconds after the attack began, all 4 were airborne. Their call signs were Dragon 1 through 4. Their loadout was not configured for observation. 4 AIM-120 AMRAAMs each, 4 AGM-65 Maverick air-to-ground missiles, 2 AGM-88 anti-radiation missiles on Dragon 1 and Dragon 2 specifically. The strike package had been pre-planned, not for this exact scenario, but for a scenario exactly like it. The Navy plans for things. The Roosevelt's radar had been tracking those 7 boats since they departed Bushehr at 0140. 4 hours of surveillance, complete track files, speed profiles, spacing intervals, communications frequencies, and the precise moment they throttled up and turned toward the carrier. The element of surprise that Vafay had spent 14 months constructing existed entirely in his planning documents. The boats were painted on radar before they'd covered the first 10 miles of their approach. 7 separate contacts closing in a coordinated fan, exactly the kind of surface swarm pattern that American anti-surface doctrine had been written to address. The Roosevelt's tactical action officer had updated the threat assessment at 0330 and again at 0500. When the attack came, the only thing it surprised was the 2 sailors who happened to be on the wrong side of the island at the wrong moment. Dragon flight reached the Iranian boat formation at 0604. 42 minutes after departure from Bushehr, 7 boats had covered 112 miles, fired on a nuclear carrier, and were now running for territorial waters at 50 knots. They were not going to make it. Dragon 1 and Dragon 2 descended to 2,000 feet and began targeting solutions on the lead boats. Dragon 3 and 4 held altitude, watching for any IRGC air assets being vectored to support the withdrawal. There were none. The IRGC Air Force had not been informed of the operation. The Theodore had kept the plan compartmentalized to prevent leaks, the irony being that the compartmentalization left his boats with no air cover at the moment they needed it most. The first 2 Maverick strikes hit at 0607. 2 boats simply stopped existing as functional vessels. The remaining 5 scattered, abandoning formation, each captain making individual decisions about which direction offered the best chance of survival. The answer, in every case, was none of them. Dragonflight worked methodically. No drama, no wasted ordnance. 6 minutes and 40 seconds of precision engagement left 5 additional boats dead in the water or sinking. 1 boat, the furthest from the pack, made it to within 4 nautical miles of Iranian territorial waters before Dragon 4's final Maverick ended its run. Simultaneously, the guided missile destroyers USS Chunghoon and USS Gridley had been vectored toward the coordinates of the Theodore's forward command post, a hardened facility on the coast of Kesht Island from which the general had personally transmitted the attack authorization at 0519. Tomahawk cruise missiles from both destroyers arrived at 0617. 2 missiles, 2 aim points, the command post and its communications tower. The building was confirmed destroyed by post-strike imagery within the hour. The Theodore was confirmed among the dead by signals intelligence 48 hours later, when his absence from IRGC communications networks became statistically unambiguous. He was the highest-ranking IRGC naval officer killed in direct engagement since the tanker war of the 1980s. He had spent 14 months planning an attack. He had succeeded in scratching the paint on an island structure and wounding 2 sailors who were back on duty within 72 hours.
The cost analysis is brief. Iran expended 7 PACAP-class fast attack boats, valued at roughly $14 million combined, 1 forward command facility, 1 brigadier general, jamming equipment worth approximately $2 million that had functioned for 60 seconds, 112 IRGC naval personnel killed or missing. In exchange, they struck a carrier superstructure with rounds that caused cosmetic damage and wounded 2 people who recovered. The Roosevelt did not change course, did not reduce speed, continued its patrol. The United States expended 8 Maverick missiles, 2 Tomahawk cruise missiles, and 4 sorties of jet fuel. Total cost approximately $11 million. Return on that investment: complete elimination of 1 IRGC fast boat flotilla, destruction of a regional command node, and the removal of the senior officer responsible for Persian Gulf harassment operations. The arithmetic is not subtle. Iranian state media announced a glorious defensive operation against American aggression by the end of the same day. No mention of the boats, no mention of a FI, no mention of the command post. The Roosevelt's deck logs documented 0 course deviations, 0 speed changes, and normal flight operations resumed by 0900. Both accounts exist in the public record. One of them is supported by satellite imagery, navigation data, and signals intelligence. The other is supported by a graphics package on state television. The Persian Gulf has a long memory. Every IRGC boat commander who took his vessel out of port in the weeks following that Wednesday morning understood something that Fafai had failed to understand. The Roosevelt doesn't just absorb attacks. It processes them, responds to them with surgical completeness, and then keeps sailing as though the interaction barely registered. Because for a strike group operating at that level of capability, it barely did. 14 months of planning, 60 seconds of communications disruption, 31 minutes of American response. The math was always going to end the same way. Some messages are written in diplomatic cables, some in sanctions. This one was written in Maverick strikes and a command post that no longer exists. If stories like this are why you're here, subscribe to Navy Frontline. We're just getting started.